today your job is to find the vertex, find the solutions. Your solutions have to be left in simplest radical form, and then you have to graph it afterwards. The graphing part, I think, is going to be the easy part. All the other stuff is going to be the stuff that's a little bit more complicated. So, and not complicated because you guys have done this a lot, but we're pulling it all together today. So what I need you guys to do, first of all, is look at number 2. I would like to start with problem number 2. X squared minus 4x minus 16. We're going to do this like, and by the way, if you write big, if you have big handwriting, I would probably get out a scrap sheet of paper. There's lots of little writing and details that you need to have on your paper in order to do this the way that it should be done. So, the first thing that you need to do is complete the square to find the vertex and the solution. So what do? It's been a long weekend. So what do we do to put this, to complete the square? Add 16. So I add 16 to the left. I add 16 to the right, leaving me with x squared minus 4x, I'm going to leave some space, equals, not 0, equals 16. All right, then I go over to the side, and I take half of negative 4. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. You take the negative 2, you square it, you get 4. So I add 4 to the left, I add 4 to the right. These 3 terms have created for me the perfect square. X minus 2 squared is equal to 16 plus 4, which is 20. Now, I ask you for the vertex, right here. So right now you should be able to tell me the vertex. What is it?
Positive 2 and negative 20.
Positive 2 and negative 20. Very nice. The opposite of how the numbers show up in the equation. And then your job is to take it a step further and solve for x. Oh, by the way, it's asking you to say whether or not it's a maximum or a minimum point. I will tell you that all of them on this paper are maximums, which is they are minimums. They are all minimums. So you can go ahead and circle those. Let's talk about y. This is a parabola because it's x squared. X squareds mean parabola. The parabola opens up because there's a positive x squared. So the parabola is going to do this. So does this parabola have a minimum point or a maximum point? Has a minimum. So they all are going to have minimums. So the minimum point, also called the vertex, is the point 2, negative 20. The solution, what do I do to find the solution? Yeah, take the square root of each side. Take the square root of the left, take the square root of the right. Whenever you take the square root of something squared, the square root and the squared cancel each other out. And it leaves you with x minus 2 is equal to. Now, when you take the square root of 20, you get positive and negative square root of 20. Now, when you type 20, the square root of 20 into your calculator, you get a terrible decimal. It's like 4.472, blah, 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 blah. So we don't want that on our paper. Remember, I told you no decimal answers. I want all your answers in radical form. But the problem with this, and this is what I mean by one extra step that you need to know how to do, is this right now is not in what we call simplest radical form. So we need to change the 20 so that it's in simplest radical form. One extra step. So what you need to do is go over to the side of your paper or on scrap paper or something, or you could even maybe go over to the right side of your paper, somewhere on there, you need to take the square root of 20 and put it in simplest radical form, which means you need to make a tree and look for pairs of numbers. What multiplies to give you 20? 5 and 4. 5 and 4. 5 is prime, so I circle it. 4 is not prime. What multiplies to give you 4? 2 and 2, both prime, I circle them. I have a pair of 2s. If you have a pair of 2s, you take those 2s and you move them outside of the radical sign. So this x minus 2 is actually positive or negative 2. Now we have a leftover 5. So that stays under the radical. So all I have done here is rewritten the 20. 20 can also be written as 2 square roots of 5. So have to consider both options now. X minus 2 could be equal to 2 square root of 5, but it also could be equal to negative 2 square root of 5. And your job is to solve for x. Well, it says x minus 2. How do I get rid of minus 2? You add it. So I add 2 to the left. I add 2 over here to the right. So this is one of my answers. 2 square root of 5, finish your radical sign, plus 2. And then the other answer is, if we add 2 to each side for the second possibility, we have x is equal to the negative 2 square root of 5 plus 2. This is our other answer right here. So we have negative 2 square root of 5 plus 2. Once you get one answer, you know what the other answer is going to look like. They look exactly the same. The only difference is that this one has a positive out in front of the radical. This one has a negative out in front of the radical. It's the only difference between them. But now we need to plot them. We need to plot these points and make our parabola. We have a vertex at 2, negative 20. So I go to the right. 2, and then go down negative 20. So you go down here and you put a point. 2, negative 20. So how in the world do you graph these things? My suggestion is to go to your calculator and type in 2 square root of 5, finish your parenthesis. So you literally go 2, and then your radical sign, a parenthesis shows up. You type the 5, you finish your parenthesis, and then you add 2. And then for the other one, you have negative 2 square root of 5, finish your parenthesis after the 5, and add 2. And you're going to get 2 crazy decimals. But that's what I want for the plotting when you plot the points. What do you get when you do the first one with a positive 2 square root of 5 plus 2? What do you get? 6.5? 6.5-ish, right? So I go over here to 6.5 and I put a point. It's not going to be perfect. These are rough sketches. But we also need to get the decimal equivalent of this one. Negative 2 square root of 5 plus 2. What do you get? Negative 2.5. So I go to negative 2.5. I put a point. Those are my 3 points that I need to connect in order to make my parabola. This parabola is not going to look perfect, but roughly it does this. And technically, parabolas go on infinitely far, so you should have arrows at the end, at the tops of your parabolas. You should have arrows saying that they go on forever and ever. All right, every step in here, if you have been keeping up with the math, you should know how to do everything on there. But we're tying it all together, so it's a lot of bits and pieces thrown together. All right. I'm going to try, by the way, is there anything I can clear up? Anything you want me to go over?
How do you plug in the negative 2 square root of 5 plus 2 and calculate it again?
How do you type it in?
Yeah.
You type in 2 square root 5, finish your parenthesis. Make sure you finish your parenthesis first, and then go plus 2. And you get something like 6.5-ish. Yeah? And then for the other one, you just type a negative in front of the 2. Negative 2 square root of 5 plus 2. All right? All right. Let's move on to, I want to go backwards now. I want to go back up to the first problem. The reason I'm doing this one is because a lot of people start panicking when you see a decimal, and you're going to get a decimal in this one. All right? So add 8 like normal. Add 8 to the left. Add 8 to the right. Leaves you with x squared plus 7x, leaves some space, is equal to 8. Why am I going to get a decimal? Yeah, it's an odd number. This is odd. We take half of an odd number, you get a decimal. And then you square a decimal, you get a bigger decimal. So we take 7, we divide it by 2, we get 3.5. Then you square 3.5. What is 3.5 squared? 12.25. So that means I have to add 12.25 to the left. I add 12.25 to the right. Remember this 3.5 is what goes in the parentheses. So we have x plus 3.5 quantity squared is equal to those two numbers added together. So 8 plus 12.25 is 20.25. Tell me the vertex. Minimum or maximum? The minimum. They're all going to be minimums. They all have low points, not high points. Your vertex is going to be negative 3.5, comma, negative 20.25. Solutions. Take it a step further. Take the square root of each side. You take the square root of the left. You take the square root of the right. When you take the square root of something squared, they cancel out, leaving you with x plus 3.5 is equal to positive and negative square root of 20.25. Check right now on your calculator to see if the square root of 20.25 is a nice number or a not nice number. By the way, if you have your head down right now, don't ask me for help later. And if you're okay with that, then I guess keep your head down. But right now I'm highly annoyed because I know I'm going to get questions in a few minutes. The square root of 20.25, what is it? It's 4.5. That's not a horrible number. That's a nice, really nice decimal. There's no crazy, ongoing, irrational numbers behind the decimal point. That's nice. So go with that. You have to do this whole tree process, putting things in simplest radical form, if you get a not nice decimal. Do you understand what I mean by not nice decimal? 4.5. So x plus 3.5 could be equal to positive or negative 4.5. So I'm going to do my math over here. Like I said, if you have big handwriting or you're having trouble fitting this all in, please do it on a separate sheet of paper. I forgot my 0.5. Should be 3.5. Subtract 3.5 from each side. So x is equal to 4.5 minus 3.5, which is 1. So we have 1 comma. Then we also have to do x plus 3.5 is equal to negative 4.5. Again, we subtract 3.5 from each side. If you are horrible at adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, especially when there's decimals, then let your calculator do it. Take negative 4.5 minus 3.5. What's negative 4.5 minus 3.5? Should be negative 8. So our other solution is negative 8. So I have an answer at 1. I have another answer way over here at the left at negative 8. But I also need to plot my vertex. The vertex is negative 3.5, negative 20.25. So I go to the left, negative 3.5, and then I go all the way down to negative 20.25, which is going to put me about right here. And then I connect the 3 points. With a nice, pretty parabola. Again, arrowheads at the tops, saying the parabola goes on infinitely far in both directions. Questions? You have the rest of the hour to finish this up. Answer key is posted. Please make sure that you're checking your work as you go, or probably as you go, so that if you are making mistakes, you can catch them before you do all of the other problems wrong too.